back to the Spoonie Stitcher channel. I'm Shannon the Spoonie Stitcher. You're inside the stitchery. I swear you are. It's over there. I'm so happy you're here today. So, real quickly, this is a tutorial video, but I kind of forgot to make an intro. So this is the intro. Today we're going to learn how to make a granny square. Now, I know there are lots of people who make granny squares, and I know there are lots of ways to make granny squares. My way may be completely different from the way either you were taught or the way you've seen before. That's just how I make them. If this tutorial doesn't work for you, there's lots of other channels that can teach you how to make a granny square. But if you want to try my way, stay tuned. Because we are doing a beginner series, I thought you might want to know just how to make a basic granny square. So this is how I do it. And if you get confused, don't worry, there are lots of other tutorials out there. Maybe another way is easier for you to follow. Okay, but here's mine. We're gonna chain 4. And I'm gonna get a little bit closer. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Do you have 4? Now, I'm going to insert my hook into the last chain, well actually the first chain, technically, 1, 2, 3, 4, the first chain next to the knot. And we're gonna slip stitch through that. We are now going to place our fingers to pinch inside this ring we made. Everything we do is now gonna go inside this ring. So chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and make a double crochet inside your ring. So where my little finger is sticking out, that's where it's going to go. Okay. Now we're going to make another one. In this particular case, it usually doesn't happen, but in this case, this chain 3 does count as a double crochet. That's important later. Now I want you to chain 2 and make 3 double crochet. So 1, 2, 3 double crochet is referred to as a shell. S-H-E-L-L, a shell. Chain 2. Make another shell. 1, 2, 3. Chain 2 again. And I will tell you why we're chaining 2 in a second. Okay, we need one more shell. Chain 2 again. And remember the top of our chain 3, 1, 2, 3, we're going to slip stitch into that. Try and have 2 loops on your hook when you do that. There we go. Now use our fingers, put our fingers in these corners and stretch. See what we've got? You should have 4 shells and 4 corners. These chain 2s are corners. Why do we want that? Well, because the granny stitch doesn't go in a lot of stitches. It actually appears in the spaces, which is why a lot of people like it, because you don't have to look at your stitches as much. So we're going to slip stitch over to the next corner. So we're going to slip stitch in this one. And we're going to slip stitch at the top of this one. And we're going to slip stitch into the corner as well. How do you do that when there's no stitch? Okay, so you see this big space? I'm going to stick my hook in there. And I'm going to go through this only loop that I've got. Chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Make 2 more double crochet so that you make a shell. Now, we need a corner again. So in the same space that we're working on, we're going to chain 2 and we're going to make another shell in this exact same space. And it looks really cool when you're done. So look at that. Isn't that cool? Okay. We're going to skip over to this next space over here, where my finger is. And we're going to do the same thing we just did. We're going to make a shell, chain 2, and another shell, all in this space. Keep your tension somewhat loose, but not too tight and not too loose. Just kind of in the middle. Like, see, I'm not really even gripping my hook that hard because I want to keep it kind of loose. And then you can always stick your finger in these corners and tug a little bit just to shape it. So you're going to do that 2 more times. You're going to do shell, chain 2, shell in this corner, shell, chain 2, shell in this corner. And I will meet you when you're done with this shell, chain 2, shell. Before you attach it, I'll meet you right here. Okay, this is what you should have. Four corners plus a space here, a space here, a space here, and eventually a space here. So remember when we slip stitch to the chain 3, we're going to do that again. Top of the chain 3 and slip stitch. Now you have 2 options. If you want to, you can change color, which I'm going to do. I'm going to change to this pretty pink. You don't have to do that. If you want to keep going, all you have to do is slip stitch over into this space. So you slip stitch in this one, and in this space. And then just continue the same way. But I am going to change color. So if you want to change color, all you do is fasten off. I have a really long tail. You don't need a long tail. And I like to always just kind of pause and straighten it out just a little bit, just so it always looks like a square. So I'm changing to pink. And I am going to add my yarn in this corner right here. And I'm going to do that by slip stitching. Like that. Ta-da! And chain 3. Again, this still counts as a double crochet, so I need 2 more. And if you didn't change colors, that's fine. Just chain your 3 and make your shell. Now we chain 2 and we make another shell because we want a corner, right? If I'm ever going too fast for you, feel free to pause the video. There we go. So right now we have a pink corner or whatever color you chose. Or if you kept the same color, you have the same color, but you have a corner. So now we have to work in something new. Now we have to work in this space right here. And that is called a side. So these are corners and these are sides. And sides just get a shell. That's it. Just a shell. and then we go into the next corner. What do? Shell, chain 2, shell. And if you have to say it to yourself while you do it, that's fine. That's how I learned too. So, making my shell. Chain 2. Shell. Next, we make another side. So that's a shell, which, as we know, is 3 double crochet in the space. Okay. Now, I'm going to do one last corner with you, and then you guys are going to do the side, the corner, and the side by yourself. So let's do the corner, shell, chain 2, shell. Okay, so you need to make a side, a corner, and a side, and I will meet you back before we join. Does everybody have something that looks like this? You may need to put your fingers in your corners again. Stretch it out a little bit, no big deal. Okay, now, remember our chain 3? We're gonna slip stitch into that again. And there we go. Now, how do you count how many rows you've done? It's actually a cool trick. So, see this right here? You count diagonally. So, 1, 2, 3. Also, if you change colors after every round, really easy to see. So if you had a different color here and a different color here and a different color here, you'd be able to see it really well. Okay, I'm going to do one more round with you, and then I am going to let you guys just go make granny squares, because honestly, after round 4, you basically do round 4 over and over and over again, as big, as small as you want. Okay? So we're going to do one more together. Remember, we're going to slip stitch into the corner. And yes, you can absolutely start in the sides. That's fine. For me, it's just easier for me to keep track of where I am if I start in a corner. So that's a personal preference. So slip stitch over to the corner. Make sure you slip stitch in the corner first. There you go. And now we're going to chain 3. And you can mark the chain 3 if that's easier for you. But one thing I like about the granny square is that you can see where you started really easily. So you can mark it if you want, but because all your stitches are so tall compared to down below, you know where you started and where you stopped, which is pretty cool. So we're making our shell, chain 2, and another shell. Then we're making a side, which is what? Shell,
And now we have another side. So as your granny square gets bigger, you're gonna have more sides. You're still gonna have 4 corners. We hope. If you don't have just 4 corners, something went wrong. But you're gonna have more spaces in between because it's gonna expand. So every time you don't have a corner, you have a side. So this one we have 2 sides on every, well, side. And I'll show you what that looks like. Look at that. See? So corner, side, side, corner. Side, side, corner. Side, side, corner. Side, side. But nothing else changes. Just how many sides you have to do is the only thing that changes from here. This is a corner, so we shall chain 2 and shell. Now we have a side. Sides are always between shells, so it's always the space. Don't go into a stitch, it's always the space. That's what gives it that cool pattern. And then we have another side. And then a corner, and I will meet you back after you finish this side right here. All right, if you have 2 sides between every corner, you did it right. And again, we're just gonna slip stitch to the top of our chain 3 to finish the row. And then slip stitch to the corner, and you'll start your next one. So your next one will have 1, 2, 3 spaces, and so on and so forth. And it can get as big or as small as you want. That's it. That's my little tutorial on how to make a granny square. If this didn't make any sense, there's lots of other tutorials out there. I just wanted to show you as part of our beginner series because I thought it was something every beginner should know. That's it for today. Please like, share, and subscribe to the Yarn Zebra family. I'd love to have you.
Remember, life happens, yarn helps, and spoonies can stitch it up too. Goodbye.